Brought to you by JEGS.
Hi, I'm Lawson with AEM Performance Electronics, and I'm here with Jason. We're going to show you our new 8-channel K-Type EGT CAN module. Our new 8-channel K-Type EGT CAN module allows you to read and record temperatures, transmit those temperatures via a one-plug AEM net CAN bus connection. Our K-Type EGT CAN module is highly accurate as well, thanks to its onboard cold junction compensation sensor. What that allows is 1% of accuracy full scale from -328 degrees to 2,501 degrees Fahrenheit. By default, the 8-channel K-Type EGT CAN module transmits via AEM net CAN bus, which means that it's immediately configurable. You can pull it out of the box and use it for our Infinity ECU Series 3, Series 7, or Series 5, or our CD5 carbon or CD7 carbon digital dashes with logging. However, if you have a non-AEM logging device that has configurable CAN, you can configure the CAN bus input on these units to work with your device. What's even cooler is if you need to record more than 8 temperature channels, you can daisy chain 2 of these modules together and bring in 16 temp channels to your logging device via a one-plug CAN bus connection. We sell the 8-channel K-Type EGT CAN module separately, and we include some Velcro for you to mount it. The K-Type thermocouple sensors are sold individually, and they're sold as singles and in 2 and 4 packs to easily configure for your 4-cylinder V6 or V8 application. Our K-Type sensor kits include, of course, a miniature K-Type thermocouple sensor, plenty of wire for you to custom trim it to your specific application, some heat shielding, nut bolt, and it includes the connector that allows you to connect it to your K-Type EGT CAN module. We call it the K-Type EGT CAN module because that's going to be the most common application, but you can use it to record all kinds of temperatures, things like cylinder head temps, pre and post intercooler temps, air temp, water temp, fluid temp, disc brake temps, and more. So there's a quick overview of our new K-Type EGT CAN module. I'm going to turn it over to Jason now so he can show you how to make an accurate connection from the module to your K-Type thermocouple amplifier.
So now that Lawson's given a great overview of the product, let's go over the tools required to connect our sensor to our module. First thing we're going to need is a set of wire strippers, a 3/16 socket or box or open-end wrench, a razor blade, a Sharpie, some scissors, a #1 Phillips head screwdriver, a lighter, and our sensor and associated components. So the first step in connecting our sensor to our EGT module is going to be connecting our extension harness here that's supplied in our kits. And the way we do this, we have ring terminals on either end of our sensor and extension harness, and we have a couple screws and nuts and some heat shrink that we're going to put over the top of these after we've made our connection. So we're going to unbundle our wiring harness here. Open this up, lay this out to the side. And first thing I like to do is verify our wire colors. On this particular harness, extension harness, our yellow is our positive, our red is our negative. On our current offering of thermocouple sensors, our red is our positive and our black is our negative. If you're using one of our older model sensors, the wire colors are going to match. Our red is our negative and our yellow is our positive. Next step, we're going to make sure that our lengths are appropriate for making our connections. In this case, our negative wire here is actually going to be a little bit too long. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a little service loop into here to cut the length down without having to recrimp the terminal or splice the wiring. So to do our service loop, it's just a quick loop like this, and that just cuts our length down without having to do any modification to the wiring itself. The next step is going to be slide a piece of our heat shrink over the longer wire here so that we have access to the ring terminal. We're going to use our screw and nut to connect our yellow to our red. We're going to tighten these down. You want to make sure when you're doing this that your ring terminals are in line with one another to make installing the shrink easier. So we're going to slide our heat shrink tube over, ensuring that we're covering both ends of our ring terminals so we have no exposed metal. We're going to take our lighter and we're going to shrink this tubing down. That, and we're going to go ahead and repeat the same process on the other two wires here. Also want to be careful that you're keeping the lighter away from the other exposed wires so that we're not burning any of the insulation. And again, if you have a heat gun or hair dryer, you can use those as well to shrink the shrink tubing. So now we've got our extension harness connected to our sensor. We're going to move to the other end and show you how to make the connection with our K-Type thermocouple connector into our CAN EGT module. So now that we've made our connections on our extension harness, the next step is going to be to determine how long our extension harness needs to be when routing it through the vehicle in order to mate to our CAN EGT module. One trick that I like to implement when doing this is I will take my thermocouple connector that mates to our EGT module, and I'm going to actually plug this into our module, and with our wiring I'm going to line this up with this break here on the connector, and that's going to give us a good length as far as how much wire we're going to need in order to properly insert this into this connector. So now that we've determined the proper length, first thing we're going to need to do is actually take a razor blade, and we're going to expose a little bit more of this wiring. We're going to be very careful here and make sure that we're cutting right down the center of this sheathing here as to not nick any of the wiring inside. And I don't like to cut all the way down. I like to score the surface and then use the wires themselves to actually create our split here. And we're just going to take some scissors here for the sake of time and cut the remainder of this sheathing off. Now we're going to go ahead and open up our K-Type thermocouple connector and show you what's inside and how those connections need to be made. So we're going to unscrew our top panel here. So that's going to show two Phillips screw clamps here and a rubber grommet. The first thing you're going to want to do is take this grommet, slide it over our two wires here. This can be a little difficult as the fit is a little bit tight, but it's designed that way so that we have no water intrusion into the connector. Okay. Now that we have our wires through, we're going to go ahead and slide this all the way down, get it out of the way, and we're going to want to strip about 1/4 of an inch off of each of these wires for inserting into our screw terminals here. Okay. We're going to twist these up to make sure they're nice and tidy before putting these in. And remember, again, our yellow is our positive, our red is our negative, and this is labeled on the connector here. It's embossed in the connector, so you have a plus and a minus. I'm going to go ahead and loosen these up. And what this is going to do is that there is a sandwich plate here, and it's going to open this up, and this is where you're going to insert your wires. So we're going to take our yellow. And I like to do these simultaneously, otherwise things can be a little bit difficult trying to do them one by one. So we're going to insert those all the way. And then we're going to snug these up here. Okay, now we've got a nice taut connection. Now we're going to take our grommet that we slid over these wires a little bit ago, and we're going to slide this up, and there's a groove on the connector that this needs to line up with. Set that in. We're going to take our cover, lay this back on, and cinch these screws down. Okay, and now we're ready to install everything in the vehicle and plug it into our thermocouple module. And it's as simple as lining up your positive negative. And this can't be reversed. These terminals are actually different sizes, so you can't physically plug it in the wrong way. And one other last bit of detail that I like to do when installing these is I like to take a Sharpie, and there's a little white paper pad on this connector, and I like to mark a number 1 on this connector so that I know that if I ever have to take this out or I have to pull the engine, I know exactly where these plug right back into the module, and I don't have to pull out my multimeter and try to figure out what goes where.
Brought to you by JEGS. Fast Delivery. Your source for high performance and quality. Delivering performance since 1960. JEGS.com.